My name is Hannah and I'm 35.
And how was things growing up for you?
So I grew up in quite, I'd say, middle class family. We had a nice house, nice holidays, a mum and a dad together. I had siblings, so I've got two younger sisters and a younger brother. And as I said, we had a relatively nice family home. But my dad was always very emotionally unavailable to me. I never sort of understood our relationship. I just knew that it wasn't right for me. So I always sort of had like dad envy. I'd see like my friends with their dads and be like, why doesn't my dad treat me like that? Right, bear with me. I do find this quite upsetting sometimes when I talk about. No, I'm fine. Honestly, I'm fine. So, as I said, always had that sort of really low emotions with my father. He wasn't one to say that he loved me. He wasn't one to sort of give me hugs. And I'm a real empath and quite a loving person, I think. And I need that sort of attention, which any daughter does. It's not just a me thing. It's what you should be receiving as a daughter. And then when we went on holiday, I was about 15 years old, and my dad was acting suspiciously. And when I say suspiciously, I mean he was being really nice to me. So obviously I lapped this attention up. Like I was 15, he was buying me cigarettes. He was like, let me use your phone, but don't tell your mum because she doesn't want me calling work when I'm on holiday, rah, rah, rah. And obviously I lapped it up, wanted my dad's attention. So when we got back from holiday, I was at my boyfriend's house and my mum came over to my boyfriend's mum's house and said, Dad's left. And I was really shocked and I was like, this is really out of the blue. But something in my heart like didn't feel right. He'd already told me to hide my phone bill from mum. So she didn't see it because she didn't want him to be annoyed about working on holiday. And these things just didn't add up in my head at all. So I said to mum, he's having an affair. And she was like, no, he would never do that. He would never do that. He wants different things. And it turned out that he was using me as a scapegoat to cover his affair that he'd been having for 2 years and then left my mum and us, and my brother was only 2 at the time, for another woman. And it wasn't until I sort of got older and started discovering myself that I realised now that that is actually coercive control. And I never sort of quite understood why I got so upset when my father left because we didn't really like each other anyway, you know. But now I know it was a trauma bond, which is crazy. Like I've only just figured that out. It's like light bulb moments coming into my head all the time. So I now know that that was my first trauma bond, and that's crazy. Like the fact that I've only just discovered that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you find that? You know, that's the first relationship for you, isn't it? Your first
of course.
relationship with a male as well.
Yeah, of course.
How did that sort of guide you towards the next relationships you found?
Yeah, so I was with my partner. So I had my first, I'd say, domestically abusive relationship probably from the age of 12. I was with an older lad, didn't know it was domestic abuse at that point. He never hit me, but he was very controlling, didn't like me spending time with friends, going to parties, etc. But because of, you know, my dad being mean all the time, I just kind of accepted that was just the way it was. Knew in my heart I wasn't being treated right, but just carried on anyway.
You don't know any better at that
yeah,
point, do you?
exactly.
Yeah.
You don't know any better when you've been taught by your dads how you're meant to be treated by a woman is not right, by a man is not right, and then, you know, you move on to new relationships and you're treated exactly the same, if not worse. I then had a relationship for about 10 years, actually, from the age of 15 when my dad left to the age of 25. I was too young. I really wish that I discovered myself before. I do feel like I had children then quite early because, you know, you want to build that family up for yourself. You want to give your children what you didn't have yourself.
How old were you when you had your first?
So I was 20 when I had my little girl. Yeah, she's nearly 15 now, and that's absolutely crazy. Yeah, crazy. I love her to death, obviously, but you know, she's seen me through some really, really difficult times. And it's been hard for her because she is such a caring soul and she is an empath like me, and I'm so determined to, you know, not allow her to go through anything that I went through. So going back to my relationship, was with my two eldest children's dad for about 10 years. We were actually married, and I then we split up when I was 25 because I was, again, discovering myself. It was my decision to leave the relationship. I just didn't feel as if, again, I was being emotionally supported or there was no emotional bond there. He had very similar traits to my dad. So going from my dad to then being in a long-term relationship with someone like my dad, I just felt completely lost. Like, I went absolutely crazy in my late 20s. I'm not going to sit here and paint myself out as like all these bad things happened to me. I'm a victim during my 20s because I, you know, engaged in behaviours that were toxic, and I was on a downward spiral. I do feel that those years caught up with me during my late 20s. So when I left my kid's father, I had a good job. I was a youth worker, was working actually with domestic violence victims. And I didn't really understand what domestic violence was. I got the reports through and I just couldn't understand why women didn't leave. Even though I was trained to be, you know, work with domestic abuse survivors, I still didn't really know because I'd never experienced it on that sort of level. So when I was youth working, unfortunately, our company lost lots of contracts because it was a charity. And I actually lost my job, and that was what kept me going, I think. And when I left that job, I just got really, really, really down, got involved with lots of drugs and alcohol, and just became a completely different person. I just completely rebelled, and I do believe that's what I did now. Completely rebelled. I don't class myself as an addict because, you know, I'm not like that now. And, you know, I still drink occasionally. So I do believe that I'm not an addict. I just used it as a crutch to get through a really bad time when actually I should have been using that time to do what I'm doing now. And that is discovering myself and learning that what I've been through is not okay. And maybe my behaviours are, you know, a factor of what I've been through. And not to feel guilty for that either, because you spend a lot of time sort of beating yourself up, don't you, for your past behaviours, and you're never going to move forward with your life if you know, keep thinking that way about yourself. So a little drink, if that's all right.
Have a drink.
Thank you. I'm not talking too fast, am I?
No, you're absolutely fine.
Okay, where was I? Sorry.
So you lost your job in the youth.
So I lost my job in the youth working, and then I was sort of in and out of a relationship, which was quite toxic. There was a lot of drugs involved, etc. And then I actually fell pregnant. He left me, which was probably, thinking back now, the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And my Joshua was born, and things were really looking up. I was happy on my own. I loved being a mum on my own. You've got no expectations because you haven't got another partner that you have to expect to feed them. You have to get up. So it's just, I just loved it. I loved being a single mum, having a newborn on my own, loved it. And I remember my best friend saying to me, "Honey, you seem really happy." And I was like, "I actually am, like, considering everything, like, do you believe this is a fresh start for me?" Oh, I was so wrong. I was so wrong. I thought that I was healing. Actually, I was so bloody vulnerable. So this period in my life, so this is when I was 30, I had Joshua. So
now you've got three.
So I got three children. Got 3 children. So got my 15-year-old. My son, he is 11. So I had a relationship with that's Ava's dad as well. So my daughter and my first son. So with the same dad. And then Joshua's dad, he left, and we haven't seen him. And I do believe it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Having Josh was the best thing that ever happened to me. Such a gorgeous boy.
At 30, how old were your children? You had a 5-year-old.
So no, I had at 30, I had Joshua. He was pretty newborn. He was like 4 months, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then my Archie, he would have been 6 and Ava would have been 10.
Okay.
So yeah, 30th birthday hit. I thought I'm going to go out. Hadn't been out since Joshua was born. First night he stayed away from me. So I let my hair down and I went out. I went to a local pub with my friend and met somebody. And this person was the person that turned my life upside down, you know, for the worst. Made me completely reflect on my whole life. I do believe now that I've had some sort of spiritual awakening because of it. You know, I've had to. If I was to remain in that state, then I'd be dead by now. So I met this guy on my 30th birthday and instantly we clicked. He was really interested in me. I like conversation. He was really clever. He would compliment me. I always remember this. It always sticks out in my brain that he said, what colour eyes do you have? And I was like, oh, green. And he said, oh, only 2% of the population have green eyes. And he was saying all these things to trap me. And he was asking me questions about my life, about my ex. And what I know now is that he was sizing me up as prey. Like he was asking these questions, not because he was interested in me. He was looking for his next supply, his next victim. And I fell hook, line and sinker completely. Being a new mum again, being vulnerable. I wasn't looking for anyone and he was quite persistent. I agreed to meet with him. I didn't think there was anything wrong in, you know, meeting someone casually. As I said, I wasn't looking for a relationship. But it moved quite quickly. He made me feel really secure quite quickly. He was really kind to me quite quickly, would buy me things, run me baths, you know, all these things that I dreamed of, like my whole life of being nurtured and cared for. He gave that to me at the beginning, which we know now as love bombing. So it was quite a short relationship, only of about 18 months, but it was the most horrific time of my whole entire life. It was awful. And I truly believe that unless you have been through domestic violence, you will never understand what it feels like. You can try to, and I do believe the world is starting to wake up and trying to realise what it's like, but you can't make any judgments until you have been through it yourself. So as I said, this relationship went on for about 18 months. Got violent quite quickly. I'd say after about 3 months, the signs of jealousy started to come along. Like he would be paranoid, accuse me of things like looking at other men or just silly little things like that. Or he would call me his little piggy because he would always compare me to his ex-girlfriend about how much bigger I was compared to her and how then he could hit me harder than her because I was bigger than her and I could take it more. Which was really horrible.
Yeah.
I always say the bruises heal and the mental scars, I think they are with you for life, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. So when you say things turned violent, how can you explain a little bit more about what happened?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so it started off with just like the odd push and shove, and then it started to, he would punch me in the leg, so it wouldn't show any bruises. There was quite often strangulation, which is a regularly used tactics by abusers. He would constantly go back to his ex-partner and triangulate us and use us against each other. He would make her feel awful about herself and make me feel awful about myself. And it was just a really toxic situation. The aggression got worse and worse and worse to a point where he actually attacked me for about 4 hours and broke my ribs. And that was what led him to be prosecuted. Unfortunately, he took my keys away from me and hid my phone, and he beat me for about 4 hours. I tried to escape out the windows and he wouldn't let me. Obviously I couldn't call the police because he'd hid my phone, I couldn't escape. And it did get to the point where I said goodbye in my head. I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. If he keeps throwing me around like this, I'm not. But something changed. I don't know if he saw how much pain I was in, but he thank the Lord he stopped. And he completely changed. He went into that sort of I'm so sorry mode, that love bombing mode again, where, you know, he knew I was in pain. He was propping me up with pillows. I was so exhausted. This was like 4 a.m. at this point. Like all I wanted to do was just go to sleep. And I did actually manage to go to sleep for a couple of hours in a lot of pain. And we got to like day 4 after my ribs were broken. And I developed this really, really bad cough. I was in so much pain, like I couldn't move. I was like, what is going on? Like, I couldn't even wash myself or go to the toilet or anything, which he wanted to help me with to do, which is really sick. He obviously liked me needing him so much. And it got to day 4 and I said, something's not right with me. I need to go to the hospital. And he was like, oh, you just want sympathy. You know, if you tell anyone, your kids are going to get taken from you. So obviously all this panic is coming over me and I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? What am I going to do to get out of this? So I went to the hospital and I lied and I said, because I had a cleaning business at the time, I lied and I said I fell off the bath at work, broke my ribs, and they said that I had some fluid on my lungs from where my ribs were broken. I wasn't taking in breaths properly. That fluid had built up, and so I was on loads of antibiotics, on the cusp of pneumonia, went home with all these antibiotics, painkillers, and first thing he said when he got in, he was like, do you not feel sorry for me? And I was like, what? And he was like, but you'll be all right, won't you? And I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm fucked now. And I just could not believe his mentality, that all he cares about was, what is he going to do now? Not me with my broken ribs and trying to look after children, lying to the world that, you know, I've just been beaten shitless. But he cared about himself. And that was when I was like, I have to do something. Like, I have to get out of this situation. Sorry, this bit's quite difficult.
Do you think that he had, until you had that sort of moment where you were like, whoa, he's actually it's actually about him, that he twisted it for so long.
Yeah.
That was the moment when you saw him for what he was.
I think so. I think because they gaslight you, abusers gaslight you so much into thinking that it's your fault. Yeah. But there was absolutely no chance in hell that this could be my fault.
I mean, what you said about him saying your children are going to get taken off you, that's any mum's ultimate fear.
Of course,
so
it is.
For him to like play on that.
Yeah.
You're terrified at that point.
Absolutely.
To go to get help.
Yeah, of course you are.
I'm taking it the kids had seen, been around this sort of, you know, aggression and control.
Luckily, no. I was always able to keep things pretty quiet. So the violence was used. So I had 50-50 custody with my 2 eldest. So my little boy was only little. So most of the time he was in bed. And my daughter now tells me that she did hear me crying quite a lot, which is still domestic violence on their terms. Like, she should not be hearing that at all. But thank God they never saw him hit me. You know, they would ask me why have I got bruises and I would lie. And now it's registering with, now they're older. You know, my middle son is asking me questions like, oh, is that why you have bruises? And that is heartbreaking for me. You know, I like him. And that's also another way that it made it so hard to leave, because he was good with my children. Yeah. And again, apparently that's
plays
another...
so many different characters.
Yes.
And that's what's so difficult, because it's not just one person, it's, you know, all these different characters.
Yes.
Working there, they're manipulating everyone, not just you, your children, your family,
100%.
Your co-workers.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so difficult to leave. So when you decided you'd had enough, did you go to the police? So
I actually had police input previously, and he was bailed, and I took him back, which always happens. So I actually had a police officer's number who was dealing with a previous case that she'd worked on with him. And I texted her, all I had was this burner phone, because he'd smashed so many of my phones. I didn't have like a normal iPhone, just had this crappy little phone. And I remember him sitting on the edge of the sofa, and I was just thinking, like, what can I do to get out of this? Like, I need to do this safely, because if he does this again, like, I will die. Like, there's no doubt about it. So it was so risky. I remember sitting on the sofa and he was literally right next to me, and I was texting the police officer and I said, please do not reply to this message and don't ring me before 10 a.m. I knew that my ex had a new job that he was starting on the Monday. So we're now on the Sunday and he had a job starting on the Monday. I even said, look, take my car, gave him a kiss goodbye in the morning, was really hoping that this police officer got my message and rang me. And he left the house, and literally within 5 minutes, I had police at my house. And they went to his place of work and they got him. And he was remanded and he was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months. Obviously, he didn't serve all of that. He's out now. I think.
How do you feel about him being out? Do you still have a fear?
Yeah, of course. I'll always have a fear. I think that's always going to be in me. But it's how you deal with it, you know. I think that I'm always going to be keeping myself safe now. He has made contact again. He was actually sent back to prison and was released last Monday because he made contact. And I haven't spoke to the guy for 3 years.
So is there a restraining order?
There's a lifelong restraining order.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's still on his licence. So, you know, and the police didn't send him back to prison for the remainder of his sentence. He got like 2 weeks for contacting me, even though he's on licence for nearly killing me. Like, how does that make any sense? Yeah. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm always going to be looking over my shoulder, and I always have to be one step ahead. But I wouldn't say that I'm scared of him. No, I wouldn't say that I'm scared of him, because he is an abuser. He's just scum in my eyes. The same as all of them. You know, any man that hits a woman, they're all the same. So no. And now, as you know, that I do help women myself get out and recover from domestic abuse. That is the most healing thing for me. Having a community of women and just having a safe space where if I'm feeling scared or if I'm feeling a certain way, I can just talk to people with absolutely no judgment. Leaving a domestically abusive relationship is the most lonely time you will ever experience. Like,
yeah, because I suppose at that point you've broken down so many relationships behind him. Like, there's no other relationships left, is there?
No. And your whole personality changes. I think I probably gained about 3 stone in weight. I was so confident. Bearing in mind, the night I met him, I was singing Proud Mary karaoke in a pub, you know. And then when he was remanded into prison, I remember texting my friend and saying, oh, I don't know if I want to meet you because I've put on so much weight. And it's like, where had I gone? Like, all of me was stripped. I had no light in my eyes. I was just a complete shell of myself. And I'm not the same as I was before. I'm still nowhere near as confident. It might be a good thing. But I'm not the same person as I was before. I'm timid. I don't socialise near enough as I probably should or as I used to. You know, there's only select people that I feel comfortable to be around now. I've got very, very bad trust issues. And again, that's probably going to be ongoing forever, but it's how we manage them and to normalise the feelings as well and not feel guilty for them, I think is really, really important.
So, how long have you been out of this relationship for?
So about three and a bit years. So it'll be 4 years in February. I'm in a new relationship now.
That's going to be my next question.
Yeah, I'm in a new relationship now, and he is someone that I would never have gone for before. I absolutely adore him. He's a complete nerd. He loves Star Wars, and he won't hate me for saying that either. He loves being a nerd. He's just so funny. He's so kind. He's so in touch with his feminine side. Like, he's so interested in me. He's so supportive in the work that I do. He's so proud. He loves my children. And yeah, I've got goosebumps. It's so lovely to finally be happy, because I have spent what I feel my whole life just having pure anxiety from such a young age.
Did you have to communicate to him, you know, what you've been through and say, look, I'm going to have these trauma responses and I'm going to be and finding someone that understands and can accept that you're going to have moments.
Definitely. And that is probably, I'm glad you brought that up, because it is something that we struggled with at the beginning of our relationship. If he would say, because it's normal to have disagreements, it's completely normal, completely overreact, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And when we met, I explained what I'd been through. I was actually friends with his mum beforehand, so that sort of helped. His whole family are really loving. And explaining that to him, it was still hard for him, to understand my reactions to things. But he's taught me, and I've taught him as well. He knows everything about domestic violence now. He's able to pick it out, and hopefully he's able to now educate people as well about domestic violence, especially men. Our relationship will always have to be worked on, and there's always going to be things that stir us up, like my ex. He's already tried to put a wedge between us by messaging him, saying that, I've been sleeping around. But thank the Lord, we are solid, and he knew straight away. He was like, I know it's you. He said it to him, and then my ex showed his true colours.
I was behind fake profile.
Yeah, behind fake profile. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
in terms of the support from the police, I don't know what they offer you. As a domestic violence, do you get any counselling or any sort of aftercare?
Okay, it's a difficult one. I think it can depend what postcode you're in, as to what services are in your area. There are such long waiting lists. It's unreal. We have something called an IDVA, which the Sunflower Centre provide in Northamptonshire. They do their best, but there is just not enough people that want to do this work. It's hard, it's emotional, and I don't think that you're able to give the right advice unless you've been through it, and not many people who have been through it want to do it.
Oh, yeah, I agree with
so it's such a difficult thing, and that's why I feel like it is my duty now, because I personally love it. Call me crazy, but I love helping people. I love seeing people thrive and seeing them come out the other side and be happy and being part of a community, and that is my drug. That is my new drug. I literally love it. Yeah, definitely.
Away from those sort of people.
Yeah.
Creating a community,
and it puts up like a barrier around all of us. It's like, I've always said to the girls on in the group, and I said, if you go back, it's fine. Just come back and I'll help you. Never, ever, ever make someone feel bad for making decisions. Because otherwise they're never going to be helped. Never.
Would you say that being in an abusive relationship is almost like an addiction?
Yeah.
Do you think, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
So, it's basically, when you go back to that, it's a relapse, isn't it? You fall in, and then you can,
definitely.
A relapse doesn't mean that you can't get out of
No. So if you think of the love bombing, so it's the love bombing phase that I class as the drug addiction phase. So we're always chasing that high. So when you have that domestically abusive scenario where, they hurt you, and then you try to leave, but then they're so lovely to you and they are so nice to you, and that feeling is addictive. It literally sends a feeling through you, like you're so in love and nothing can change our bubble. It's a crazy feeling, and that's the part that's addictive. But once you recognise the really, really bad signs and how toxic they are and how long-term effects they have, then I think you're able to see the light. It's learning, definitely, and discovering yourself that is the best healer.
And would you say that there's any sort of telltale signs to look out for as a woman going into a new relationship that would make you sort of go,
Yeah, so I'm hyper alert to everything in new relationships, as you can imagine. And sometimes I do feel a little bit too hot on things. But definitely I would say wanting to move in too quickly, being too nice. If it feels too good to be true, then it usually is. It really is. You need to take things slowly. Being treated nice is lovely, but you need something that's going to be consistent. If they're going to buy you flowers at the beginning, then you want them to buy you flowers all the way through the relationship, and not just because they've done something bad. So another thing would be if they talk badly about their ex as well. So if they're already putting things in your head about how terrible their ex is, then 9 times out of 10, they're usually the ones that are the bad ones, because they're trying to use a tactic to make them seem so sweet and innocent when they're not. Yeah. Definitely.
Anything else? I mean, you said about the accusations and things like that, so the paranoid.
Yeah, so another one is jealousy. That's the women that I speak to, that is always the case. They are so jealous, constantly checking locations on phones. I've heard of trackers being put on cars, all those sorts of behaviours. Checking through post, ring doorbells, all those sorts of things, just keeping checks on you. Like, that's not normal. That is not normal. You don't need to be checked up on. You're a grown-ass adult. You can do what the hell you like as long as you're respecting each other. Then you don't need to be checked up on. I mean, I could sit here all day and tell you about all the signs, but I'm not going to. But yeah, so another one would be not having a good relationship with their mother, or if their mother really babies them. I would say that's pretty toxic. I think if your partner has a really good relationship with their mother and the mother teaches them how to be a good son, I think so it's a really good sign.
Yeah, but someone is too, what do you mean? If their relationship isn't good with their mum.
Yeah, if their relationship isn't good with their mother.
Females?
Yeah, females. Yeah, and I always notice that abusers never like to have female friends. Now, I think it's really empowering when guys have female friends. My partner has, his best friend is female, and I love her to death, and that is one of the things that drew me to him, because he is so sensitive. And I always notice that abusers hate females. They don't like their mothers, and they even treat their daughters differently to how they treat their sons. And I can say that about my dad for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So moving into your support group and what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So it's kind of a bit of a discovery journey at the moment. I'm kind of networking, dipping my toes in different things, but obviously my main goal is to help women leave and support them whilst leaving. My main concern is that people aren't getting justice. They're not getting the right prosecutions for their perpetrators. So my job is to help them through that. I'm also looking into becoming sort of a step down service from Refuge, because I think that even to go out shopping when you've been in a relationship is really scary. So just to have someone there to make you feel confident, or even to just be on the phone and have a chat to, stripping it back to the basics, just generally being nice and caring. And I want to teach people about domestic violence. So I'm also dipping my toes in sort of campaign work, and we did a march. So my group is the Women's Empowerment Group, and we conducted a march to call out domestic abuse within our government system in Northamptonshire. We did that, I think it was last month. There's a lot of corruption going on in Northampton, but that's for another day. Another podcast, yeah. Lots going on there. So we're just calling out bad behaviour. I don't get paid for my work, so I'm not going to be losing anything. I know a lot of charities are funded by councils, so it's hard for people to call them out when they're getting funded by, these perpetrators.
That's how corruption goes so
Yeah. But all my work is free. I don't believe people should have to pay to feel better. I do believe that in good time, the universe will, help me on my journey to being where I want to be. But right now, all I care about is just helping and seeking justice, and just literally not being silent. I'm sick of people just being silent about things. I've had to do it my whole life, and I won't stand for it anymore.
Sounds very good.
Thank you.
Sounds very empowering.
Thank you.
Which is why it's called the Empowerment Group.
Yes.
So how do you, you're saying, because obviously us being online now creates more access to support, doesn't it? You don't actually physically have to be in a room to offer that. So do you do a lot of stuff online? Yeah, so
I have a Facebook community group, which is private. I think there's over 300 members now. So I post information that I might deem informative. You can also post on there anonymously if you've just got any questions that you don't want to discuss openly, and there's always someone there to answer a question, like all of us have been through something. There's some really, really amazing people on there. I've got doctors, I've got ex-police officers, I've got social workers, so you can come and ask anything. And it's not just about domestic abuse, it's about making people feel good. And so I'll post things like what music I'm going to listen to make me feel good, and just little things that I've done to heal myself. I haven't ever sought any professional help. I can't afford it. So everything that I've done to help myself is just my own research, and TikTok has helped me massively. I have been encouraged to post videos on TikTok, and again, I've built a community on there, and I've learned so much from other people, and just having conversations about it and spreading the word that domestic abuse is not shameful. Like, it's not. Stop feeling, mums, can we stop blaming the mums, basically? Stop blaming the mums, and let's focus on the perpetrators. And yeah, so there's lots to come in the future with the women's empowerment group. So yeah.
Amazing. I've seen your content. That's how we started chatting and stuff, which is amazing. I really think it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I hope to see the groups grow. We're going to post everything in the clips below, so guys can add on to
Thank you.
The groups. Is there anything else you want to share?
I don't think so. No, it's been lovely. Thanks for having me.